Let's see if this, okay. That looks about right. That, I have to see some comments come in and see if we're good. Technical challenges in the morning. I'm sorry, people. Okay. All right, that looks about right. That looks good. Morning, Joe. What's up, brother? How you doing, man? Good to see you. Good to see you. Good morning, Jeannie. How you doing, sis? Try to take a few days off. Thank you, sir. And spend a little time with family, but in this country, boy, you can't take no time off. Yeah, I'm pushing I still got this, it's a growth on the side of my head. It's like a nose, but it's good. If it turns into another nostril, man, I could get a lot of oxygen. Oxygen is very important for the immune system. You have to breathe in a lot of oxygen. All right. So, yeah, I did, took a few days, kind of spent a little time with some family. Good morning, Sister Haley. How you doing? And you can't get away from it. There is no getting away from the ignorance in our country, boy. It is at its, this is like peak racism, just watching the two groups go back and forth and the fighting and the names and all the silliness and trying to, but to be fair, it's not racism. It's perceptionism. And that's what I want to try to get into this morning. Like the difference between racism and perceptionism. And brother Jamie Foxx sent me down this path. If any of y'all that follow Joe Rogan, I can't promote the brother enough. Y'all should definitely watch Joe's podcast. Like, he's even keel in the middle, talks to everybody, tries to get perspective. Intelligent brother. I mean, he used to do the ultimate fighting, and you would think his brains would have got knocked out, but they're still working, man. That brother's firing, good thoughts. But he had Jamie Foxx on there the other day, and I think, I don't know if I posted it or not. Maybe I have to post it. But Jamie had a great point. He had a great point, and I hate to repeat it because it sounds like I'm just taking his stuff. But he said that, he said one thing. He asked the question. He says, as a race, are we too fragile? Right? Are we getting a little too sensitive? Are we, they were kind of talking about, because they're both comedians, and they were both kind of talking about, there's a lot of places we can't step, because if we step there, then we get in trouble. If I say something, I'm accepted by this community, so I can say it, but you're not, so you can't say it, or you used to be. And so, perceptionism versus racism. And for me, I always like to come from a scientific perspective. Like, I don't really care what it looks like, right? Because the answer isn't in what it looks like. The answer is in what it is, right? If you want to get down to the root, if you want to solve a problem, so let's say the problem's racism. If you want to solve this problem, and let's be clear, from what I've seen, racism is not isolated to any race. It's just this invention of masters to try to get people separated like cattle. And it can hit anybody, anywhere. All you got to be is in the wrong place at the wrong time with probably too many of the wrong people, and you will be a victim of it. But, and to be fair, I don't think any of us are protected from it, right? Like, I do believe that you can't judge a man unless you walk in their shoes, right? You can't judge a woman unless you put on them pumps and walk around in her shoes, in which we got a lot of brothers that do that, and hey, that's okay. I'm good with everything. I honestly believe, you do you, I do me. And that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants to be let alone, but we let these authoritarians come in. So anyway, I'm off. I don't want to go off in too much of a tangent. So what Jamie was talking about, I know I'm going to mess it up. I was laughing. It was good. He said, but I don't think what we're fighting is racism. It's perceptionism, right? Like, a lot of times it looks like it's racism, but it's not. It's perceptionism. And in my own personal experiences I've shared, I've been in situations where I thought they were racist. Listen, I couldn't tell you how many situations I've been in I thought were racist, and probably 9 times out of 10 they were perceptionist problems, not racist problems. It's, which is why I'm lucky, totally lucked up that I came from the family that I did. I had the friends that I did, and I grew up in the area that I did. So I don't react to stuff like that. But his point, he said, so he was talking about, he said, see, black people, and y'all bear with me for a minute. I don't like these colors because it pisses me off that master gave us these colors and everybody's still using them. But damn it, if I don't say them, then people don't understand what I'm saying. So he said, black people, he said, we don't like to fly. And first of all, it's funny, but it's not true. But it's funny. He said, we get on the plane. He said, the first thing we check out a pilot. He said, we get on the plane and we see a white pilot. He's kind of got a little gray on his hair, a little gray on his chin, got the aviator glasses. We get on the plane. We don't, hey, walk on, find your seat. But he says, we get on the plane and it's a brother. This is the first thing we do. Say, hey, brother, how you doing? Hey, how long you been flying? You got your flight record with you anywhere, brother? Because it's perception, right? So, it's perceptionism. You say we hit some turbulence. You say with the white pilot, you don't say anything. You say with the black pilot, hit the turbulence. Hey, brother, we good? We good? You all right? It is funny. I know somebody will get mad at me or whatever. I don't care. Y'all get mad all you want. I think it's hilarious. None of it's true, but it's hilarious. But it makes sense, too, because we get that perception, right? Like you look at television. If I had to think back in terms of television and movies, how many black pilots have you seen? How many Mexican pilots have you seen? How many female pilots have there? There might be a couple. We're changing. I mean, don't get me wrong. And I don't watch a lot of TV now, so I really don't know what's on there now. But you have this perception, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean you're racist. It just means you have this perception. I remember, I didn't watch the whole movie. There's a movie called Soul Plane. I couldn't watch it. It was a little too much for me. So, but it was a black airplane or something, ghetto comedy anyway. So, but it's the perceptions that we have. And sometimes people will treat you a certain way, and it's not because of your race necessarily. It's because of stereotypes. Yes, stereotypes that the media drills into your head. I was listening to a lecture the other day, and it was awesome. It was about these mice. And what they did was an experiment with mice. And what they did is they took the mice, and there was something that they loved to eat. And anytime the mouse smelled it, the mice would run over to it and eat it. Like it was a favorite food of these type of mice. And so what they did is they took the mouse, and every time it bit into the food, they shocked it. So like, they kept shocking it. And do you realize the next generation of the mice, whenever they smelled the food, they wouldn't go near it. And the next generation wouldn't go near it. And the next generation wouldn't go near it. And what that is, that's an example again of training, programming, and epigenetics, flipping switches and handing it down through generations. This is something that you have to fear. Anytime you bite into this cupcake, it's going to kill you. It's going to bring you pain. And so the kids don't do it. And to me, this stuff should be all over the media. I'm a little bit of a geek, but this stuff is phenomenal, right? Like this is explaining why we are the way we are. So if you think about that in terms of human programming and genetics and the whole transgenerational epigenetics hand-downs, imagine if human beings are actually being coded the same exact ways. And this is kind of backstepping for me to a degree, and it's not really backstepping. I think it's clarification. Good morning, Stephanie. Is racism, is it biological, right? Like, I don't like to believe so. I think people are crazy when they think that somebody is this, so they're genetically predisposed to hating this, that, or the other. But what if some of this stuff does get handed down, right? You know, it may be that I come from a line where that didn't happen. You know, growing up, I remember getting on the elevator and going up the steps or crossing the street, and some people with the purse, they put their purse next to them and kind of walk the other way and put to do this. And what's funny to me is people say, oh, well, he's talking about white women. No, brother, I'm talking about everybody. Listen, when you are a dark-skinned, bald-headed man and you're walking around, it's about their perceptions and where you are. When I was in a very wealthy areas, because I grew up in a wealthy area and I've been in the business world for a long time, but every now and then I was in a city, I didn't walk around in my business suit. I threw on just some regular street clothes and would walk around. And the black ladies did it too, and the Hispanic ladies did it too, but not the like the middle class average type of person. It was always the elite types. You know, they got the Gucci, this, that, and the other. And I don't even know what half of this stuff is with the pumps, and you got the money, and got the little bag with the dog. You see him with the little dog in the bag. Well, who comes up with this nonsense? But they got a little dog in the bag, and here I come walking down the street. Hell yeah, they cross the street. Doesn't matter what race they are. It's about them being elite. And I don't blame them. I think it's funny to a degree. And I speak to everybody. So after I talk to people, you know, they kind of realize, oh, okay, you know, it is what it is. But it's perceptionism. And so I think a lot of what we're dealing with is these narratives that the media gave us. Yep, Dawn, spot on. It's conditioning and manipulation. But see, it gets handed down though, right? And that's the crazy part, is that if for hundreds of years we've been handing this down. So when the first masters and railroad tycoons came up with this nonsense of race and to get people fighting, what if it actually got handed down? What if, you know, and to a degree, you could make the argument that it's a mental illness. You could make the argument, and this is what one of the brothers posted in the thread the other day. It was deep. We were talking about PTSD, and he kind of fine-tuned some of my thoughts for me. He said, but take the D off, right? You know, post-stress, you know, post-PTSD, post-traumatic syndrome, and I guess it's a disorder, but the whole point, when I know I probably messed that all up, but take the disorder off, because it's not a disorder, right? When you send little kids to war, it's supposed to screw their brains up. When you send adults to war, it's supposed to not really screw their brains up, but it's supposed to start flipping DNA, you know, from a survival perspective, as, you know, being able to tolerate and deal with those conditions. So it's not a disorder. It's just an explanation. But when you put the disorder on it, it makes it sound like it's a problem that's normal, that is a failure of the human body, and post-traumatic stress. Because I think if you end on a stress, thank you, Jania, you end on the stress and not the disorder, it's not a failure of the human body that requires medication, treatment, and health insurance. It's where someone can make some money. It's a stress. And we know what stress is, right? Stress is bad. We know what it does. You're not supposed to do this. So if it's stress, you got to get rid of it, right? So if war causes that stress, if stealing people's oils and killing their babies and fighting with the parents that are angry causes stress, then we shouldn't be doing it. So, and to me, it makes perfect sense, but it's crazy to think about. We've been handing this stuff down, and it becomes a part of our genetic coding, which is why, and I posted something by Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney, and it's funny. I've heard the name. I didn't really know who she was. I see a lot of stuff about Caitlin Johnstone, some of the stuff she's going through, and I kind of know the name, and I kind of, but again, I live under my rock. I'm really not interested in all this craziness. I think both parties are nuts. I think if you murder people for money, you're a bad guy, and anybody who wants to be in your party, they need a few more hugs in their life, because killing children is not a good thing, no matter what you're giving the public. But what Cynthia was talking about, and I think I mentioned it before, is I know people who are in the Klan, or who used to be, And if they aren't now, I know people that are true blue, white suit with the helmet, locked in place. And I know people who were Black Panthers, and I guarantee you they still are. I know folks who are with Black Lives Matter. Whether you think that's a positive or negative group, doesn't matter. I know folks with White Lives Matter, whether you think it's positive. And the thing that I'm going to tell you about all these people, for you people who don't get out too much, is they're people. They're all people, every last one of them. And if you follow neuroscience and epigenetics or pay any attention to it, you will understand that we don't have as much free will as we like to believe. We like to tell ourselves we have all this free will. A lot of this stuff, like with the mice, is handed down. What you like, what you don't like. It's not a coincidence that if your dad likes pizza, you like pizza. It's not a coincidence if your mom likes squash, you like squash. Other weird things. My mother loves some okra. And hell no, I don't like no okra. You can't do okra right. Like, okra is slimy and disgusting. And I'm not going to get off on the vegetable side, vegetarian, but don't ever put that on my plate. You can fry it and it's not slimy, but there's always a little taste of the slime. But anyway, that's some epigenetics that did not get it handed down from my mother to me. So, and then even blue lives matter. Like, if you have the genetics and if you have the rearing, you will be that person. That's it. I mean, you might have a 1 or 2% difference, but that will be you, completely you. And that's why they talk about walking in another man's shoes or another woman's pumps. Because if you had that rearing, you probably were going to do the same exact thing. And the biggest problem with talking like that is it means I can't judge you. Oh my God, ooh, I can't judge you. And this is good too, because being in a country where most of the people have some sort of faith, and their faith they teach not to judge. If I'm going to be you, if I have your lineage and your rearing from your parents, and I'm basically going to become you, it means I am you. And if I am you, and we are all this human species thing, we all have these genetics, and that determines who we become with our rearing and our environment, that it means I can't judge you for anything that you do. Whoever you become, whether it's in a hate group or whatever it is, you were supposed to be that, right? And you can try to level up, and that's what we're supposed to do generation to generation, but it means I can't judge you. And the basis of an authoritarian is judgment, right? The basis of authority. It means that I know better than you, and I get to tell you how to live. I tell you what's legal and what's not legal. I tell you what was worth putting you in a cage and putting you back in slavery. So that's kind of what I see with that, is that this whole belief, good morning, Cindy, that we are the same and we will become who that person is. It means that we're not going to stay away from them. We can't judge them. We have to have empathy for them and understanding that they became who they were supposed to become. And if that's true, when these parties and these politicians get up and they start telling you who your enemy is, you then can't go along with the narrative, because then you understand that your enemy is you. Your enemy totally is you, because if you were them, you would become that. Is anybody following what I'm saying? Like, am I talking crazy talk, or is this making sense? Like, I look at what's happening with Caitlin, and I look at what happened with Debbie and Claudia and all of this. Like, it is still this same BS narrative that I'm going to use this idea that we have an enemy and that they are different and that they are the others and that they're the alt-right. And I don't know a whole lot about what happened, to be honest with you. I had my head under the rock for a little while. But they're going after her, I guess, in the same way, with the same verbiage. And one of the things I know from that argument was that she was being attacked because from one of her posts that she wanted to work with the alt-right. And she defended herself and said, no, I didn't want to work with the alt-right. I'm the exact opposite. I don't think that she made a mistake up until then. I think her mistake was right there. Hell yeah, you want to work with the alt-right. You want to work with the alt-right. You need to work with the alt-left. You need to work with the alt-top. You need to work with the alt-bottom. You need to work with everybody. And anybody who tells you who you shouldn't work with, that's your enemy. And that's the first person you need to go off and have a conversation with, because that's who they're oppressing, right? Like, that's who they're lining up to do some really dastardly stuff to. So anytime anybody wants to tell you who your enemy is, that's the person you need to be aware of. Oh, I got a good one. I'm gonna put this analogy out there for you. Okay, so it's normalized in these political parties, the extreme left, extreme conservative, extreme right, extreme whatever. It's normal that when you get with them, they kind of give you get your handbook, they give you a little thing, tell you, okay, here are all your enemies, and this is your enemy, and you don't like them. You got to be scared of them. You gotta down the list. It's kind of like getting a new job. You ever get a job and you go in the environment and you got that mouth of the South. You got that person who just judges everybody and who can't shut up, and they stir up drama and problems in the office, and they stab everybody in the back, and just chocolate all over their nose, right? And that's and they come up to you, and the first person says, hey, how you doing? I'm gonna tell you who you got to be aware of. Don't talk to Sarah, and don't go to lunch with Bob, and Mike over there, he does this, and this person, he does pornography. And I like the first person who gets in want to start talking rumors, like they want to get you on their team starting to talk lies and BS. Why? Because they want you on their team in this game that they're playing, and they don't want you to talk to Bob. Why? Because if you talk to Bob, you're going to realize Bob ain't the person that she said. And it could be a he, but Bob ain't that person. Bob ain't that cat. Something probably happened between them down the road, and she has a political benefit to keeping you from talking to that person and realizing that they're a damn human too. So, and I think that's a good example. Another example I would give is, so Congresswoman McKinney, she did an interview with Debbie, and I've never seen the interview, and I need to go take a peek at it. Once I grab it, I'll post it. Or maybe I did post it this morning. I'm not sure. I'm still a little tired. But one of the things, so Senator McKinney, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, because again, I don't follow this stuff. Once I realized that they institutionalized slavery for all races through foster care and child protection and what was it, the Welfare Reform Act and all that nonsense, I was done with both of your parties. I just told they can both go to hell, and I stopped following everybody decades ago. So I didn't know who she was, but I heard the name and I heard it under positive context because I think Brother Ron Paul put it out there. But so she was politicking, right? She was in Georgia. She was down there with the Klan, and this is a proud African descended sister, right? And she said, I had to work with the Klan. They live right down the street. She said, I was down there working with them, talking with them, politicking. I need to get their votes. And do you know, she got some of their votes? Process that. Let it marinate a little bit for some of you thick-headed people. Senator McKinney, who is just dark, pigmented, black in the sun as I am, went down, worked with the Klan, found out what they needed, found out why they were the way they were, found out the reason they felt the need to group up in the way they did, and they supported her. But these are truths that you'll never see on television. You'll never see them in the mainstream media. They don't want you to think that these people are human. They don't want you to think that the Black Panthers are human. They don't want you to think that Black Lives Matter are human. They don't want you to think that white lies. They want you to think that they're monsters. Why? Because if they're monsters, then you can take them and you can send men with guns into their neighborhood and take them into cages and lock them into slavery. And you won't think nothing about it. You'll just drink your unicorn latte and go back about your business. And so, and you're spot on, Marion. The Klan is built on fear. And the Democrats are built on fear. And the Republicans are built on fear. Black Lives Matter are built on fear. White Lives Matter are built on fear. Blue Lives Matter are built on fear. So to finish up talking about Congresswoman McKinney, and so one of the things she said is that the FBI came to her and they said, well, we're going to have to protect you. We're going to have to we got to get you in, And so, and just to be fair, that's not my voice for anybody of any certain, whatever race you think you might be. That's my voice for just like the political corporate things. That's my voice. So come on, we got to protect you. They're going to try to get you. Why would they even do that? They would do that because you have this chocolate woman working with some beautiful vanilla people who went through some BS by the elite and became the way they were. And they were like, whoa, you aren't what TV says. You're not what this political party says. You are a decent woman. You understand our interests. You give a damn enough to talk to us. We'll support you. That's what you have to do. And that's what you have to be. And so when the FBI came to her and said, we got to protect you, you know what she said? What is it? I'm going to mess the quote up. What did she say? I think I posted it this morning. I messed the quote. But she basically said that, to the effect that, why would I come under your protection? Because I'm scared of some racists that live down the street? That she had more fear of the left and of the FBI than she did of the people who live down the street. Because you got to stop being scared of your neighbors. You have to stop the BS. Remember, anything that the elite wants you to do the opposite. Yes, Sister Jenny, break down the barriers of fear. There's no reason to be scared of our own people, dummies. They're just people. And I have people who promote, oh, you got to be careful. They're dangerous. You're putting out some dangerous concepts to work with the Klan and work with the Panthers and work with... And I'm like, these are not dangerous concepts, dummy. Do you know if you added up all the people that the Klan killed and the Panthers killed and I don't know, every slave revolt and every hate group you can think of, throw in the skinheads, you add up all the people they murder, I guarantee you that it doesn't come close to the amount of people the Democrats murder every year, which doesn't come close to the amount of people the Republicans murder every year. And these are just the published murders, people. I'm not even talking about like the quiet wars and the secret wars and the dastardly things they do, throw a sign out to Seth, brother, wherever you at, God bless you. These are some heinous people now. So when you want to talk about being fearful, well, first of all, listen, I have no fear, okay? I'm good. They can do anything they want to me. I'm good. I lived a good life. I had a lot of fun. So y'all want to go? I got my friends, they tell me this stuff. They got this dust they can sprinkle on you, get in your lungs and make you die and stuff, which I kind of believe. But if that's what y'all want to do, go for it. But I'm going to speak the truth and I'm going to tell you to go to hell. Why? Because I was raised to speak the truth and tell you to go to hell. All right. I got off on a tangent there. Yeah, and so Sister Marion put it out there, and I promote, vote for third party, and I did promote that up to the last election, and I voted for a third party. I don't know where I'm at right now, Sister Marion, but I agree with you that anything based on hate, including a third party, is something I will never support, and I will talk it down today, tomorrow, and every day, and that's what you should be doing. Right? My allegiance is to the human race. Everybody else, everything else, every group else, I'm always going to tell to go to hell. Like, I have zero interest in your hate. I kind of throw these broadcasts out there, and it's kind of funny. I try to talk to people who do this and monetize and all that stuff. Maybe. But the thing is, anything that you're beholden to, you won't turn on. And me in my life, I was beholden to big industries. I was beholden to corporate America. I was beholden to the thing that I hated the most. So how could I attack them? How could I speak truth about them? You can't poop where you eat. If they're feeding you, you can't turn on them. So if you actually want to be, someone who can speak the truth at all times. Hopefully someone that people can trust. You can't be beholden to any of these things or any of these parties. And this is why people start talking about Bernie. I'm quiet. I'm not really saying nothing. I think hopefully I've made my position clear. I love Brother Bernie. I do. I do. And I think that he had a very significant role. It's not even I think. He had a very significant role in waking things up, because you actually had a Democrat who came out and said the Democrats are foul. He came out and told the truth, that y'all are dirty, the Republicans are dirty. He didn't say Democrat, but he if you're paying attention, the policies, the things that they're doing, he called them dirty, which is why they screwed Brother Bernie. Since then, and I'll stop there. I don't like to talk negative about people who have love in their heart. And while I'm not excited about some of the places the Democrats, I think, are forcing him down, he stood up during the civil rights movement. And he put his heart out there, right? And so I'm convinced we don't know what happens at those levels of government, and we'll never know. And we'll never know the pressure that's brought to bear. And we never know what they might threaten people with. We know these are particularly heinous and evil people. We know that we see good men going into office and good women going into office and them changing. And the ones that don't change, like Sister McKinney, they get chased out the country, So then the ones who don't get chased out the country, they might end up with, talking with JFK. And so I won't talk negative about Brother Bernie. Some of the things he does, I'll speak about, but I know that there's love in his heart somewhere. But speaking the truth, you got to speak the truth. And the truth is, you will never, ever, ever, ever get any good coming out of a party that's beholden to murder and corruption. Never. I don't care what programs they give you. I don't care what cell phones they give you. We've seen this time and time again. This is exactly how they broke down that Farmers Alliance I keep talking about. You know what they did? They started giving the poor whites cell phones. They started breaking them up. They started telling them you can't go to the same bathroom. You can't go to here. Why? Because the poor whites and the poor blacks weren't as dumb as the poor whites and poor blacks today. And that, and dumb being they were getting together and they understood what was going on and they understood that they were being played. And so they came up with these little trinkets to say, yeah, you're poor white trash, but we're going to give you a little more than we give the poor black trash. And they got played. And so the thing that I ask you is, don't get played again. Don't get played again. Dummy, don't get played again. Because it's not about you. It's about your kids. It's about the future, dummy. All right. This is why now I got to have a cup of coffee sometimes. I have to kind of step back a little bit. I don't, like you said, I don't want to be the angry black man. We got enough angry black men. I want to be the angry man. No, I don't want to be the angry man either. I'm not angry. I think this is so sad, it's humorous sometimes, but, so don't try to push me in the way of your party. It's not going to work. The basis of why I open my mouth and the basis of why I get up in the morning, it's all about kids. It's about doing the right thing. It's about not imprisoning human beings in cages. And it's not about bombing those children overseas. And if your group does that, I couldn't give two damns what they're going to give me. I don't care about any program they're talking about. If you are murdering kids, you're foul. You're Jeffrey Dahmer. You're Ted Kaczynski. You're all of these mass murderers in time. That's who you are at a significantly higher level. And if you support them, I see you as the family of those mass murderers sitting back in the crowd going like this, clapping. Like, oh, that's my baby, but that's, I'm sorry. I can't. If you run as a Democrat or a Republican, all you're going to get out of them is murder. And anybody who supports that, I'm watching my friends list start to delete down a little bit. Anybody who supports that, hey, listen, my heart is there for you, but You got to work on your soul. You you got to work on your soul. Do you know what these bombs are doing to these babies? You are. Sister Gretchen, you're right. You're killers. And you're cheering killers. You're cheering killers because they're giving you shiny things. And I'm not going to say what I really feel. I just got serious for a moment. I don't want to get too serious. Because, you know, as bothered as I can get by the activity and what some parents out here will support, I still accept the reality of how I started this live out on, which is if I were you, and if I were handed your epigenetics and I were handed your fear, the things that were handed down to you by your ancestors, and I was raised in the environment you did, and I worked for the companies you did, and I saw the things that you did, I'd probably be doing what you're doing and voting the way you're voting. And that's kind of where the end of the epigenetics thing stops, and critical thought has to start, right? Because critical thought is what evolves that epigenetics, where you stop like the mouse, like I was talking about earlier. And you say, wait a minute, I smell this thing and I'm scared of this thing, this cupcake thing, but why am I scared of it? Maybe I got the wrong signal somewhere. Let me just go take a bite. Damn, that actually tastes kind of good. Now, I don't know about the carcinogen in the cupcake, but that tastes pretty good. It's got some sugar in it, but well, maybe I'm getting the wrong signals. And that's what you have to do when your party start telling you who not to talk to. That's what Sister McKinney did when she went to go work with the Klan. Is you got to go realize that these are just people. And sometimes people get the wrong signals and they get the wrong things handed down to them. And all they need to do is see that you're human and that you give a damn about them and their kids. And a lot of people, it drops their guard because they don't expect that. They expect you to come at them and they expect you to be negative. And so don't be that person. I don't want to say be an adult, but I want to say, level up. Don't be that way. Know who your brothers are. And the post I made this morning, I explained, is that all these groups, these white lives and black lives and Asian lives and all lives and native lives and blue lives, you're all on the same team. You are all being played by the exact same people. They screw up the neighborhoods, that screws up the kids generationally. So when they interface with the police, it's never good. The communities, that they interface in, whether it's a trailer park or a ghetto or a ranch, it's never good. And so the police get a little jumpy on the gun. They get jumpy with the baton. Why? Because that's what they're supposed to do. They legislate against genetics to get everybody fighting so they continue to siphon the wealth out of our country. Wake the hell up. Wake up! All right, let me stop. There's no such thing as being woke. Everybody woke, posting all day. Waking is, I don't think there's a state of woke. I think it is, when we were kids, we used to play this game called BS. I personally don't like to cuss, so I don't go there, but it was called BS. It was a physical game and it was also a card game. But the whole goal was pointing out BS. And the cool thing about some of my friends growing up in the same way that I still am is like, we don't like politics. Isn't that, we're not political people. But we never stopped playing this perpetual game of BS. Anytime you see it, you got to throw your cards on the ground. BS, and call it out for what it is. And that's what I'm calling on both of your parties. Not the people, but the leaders. This is BS. It's all BS from top down to the bottom. So waking is a lifestyle. It's not a destination. You have to slowly, every time you see the BS, not beholden to it, call it BS. It's uncomfortable. It means that you got to step away from some of your friends. You might have to step out of your comfort zone. You might make a lot of enemies. But in order for us to evolve socially, we gotta call BS BS. And you gotta know who your friends are. You gotta know who your allies are. Quick story. Growing up, we had the little thugs in the area. And one of the little thugs I kind of interfaced with. And I hated my brother. I tell you, my biggest brother, I hated that dude. But I hated my other brother too. I couldn't say. These dudes, they were always beating up on me and stuff, man. Y'all might say I need to get some psychological. But you know, they were taller than me. They were skinny though. They had these little racehorse ankles. I still don't know how they stand up today, but I got the short gene. They got the tall gene, but also I got a little bit of the muscle gene. So I grew to a point where I could regulate that, but that's not what I want to talk about. I couldn't stand it. We were boys. We always fighting. You get home from school, you know, you walk in, your brother hits you, clack, you know, and that's what's supposed to happen. You're boys. But as much as we couldn't stand each other, one day, one of the big brothers of one of the little thugs in the area came down, and he wanted to beat me down, and he started to. And you know, that big brother, that big blockhead of his, it was right in front of the house. He came running out the house. I swear, I've never seen my brother run that fast in his life. And to him, it was probably nothing. But he knew who his little brother was. And he knew he loved his little brother. And he knew his little brother loved him. And the default kicked in that this is team. I swear he had a cape on. I swear that dude came out of the house, man. I was on the corner. This big dude was on me, hold me down. They had dogs too, and the dogs over there. That dude came down, flew out the house, and he beat the hell out of that thug. And you always got to know who's on your team. You got to know who's on your team. If you don't know who's on your team, you're going to lose at everything. So this is kind of a request, a thing to kind of think about for all these groups: Black lives, blue lives, white lives, Asian lives, Native lives. I'm going to say blue lives again. We're all on the same team, and we're all being played by the same people. Good morning, Debbie. And if we don't realize that they're playing our genetics against us, we don't get to make it. We don't get to make it. So if you're harboring that hate for the police, or you're harboring that, PTS for, dealing with the kids in that community or wherever, really, maybe think about the capacity that you're doing your job. If you're an adult and you live in those communities, think about talking with the police. Think about talking with the blue. Those are they're our brothers. And what I think about this whole camera thing, when I forgot what killing or beating it was, it might have been Trayvon Martin, I think. When that happened, the first thing everyone wanted, we got to get the cameras. We got to get the cameras on the uniform. And you would think that this was some sort of a big call by the people and something that was going to change things. But funny is the cameras were already there. They already had them in supply. And they just got rolled out, almost as if they had them waiting and someone was ready to sell a couple million cameras and make a lot of money on that and the infrastructure to record all of this. But I won't get into that. The point is, let's look at the effect of it, right? So now we get to see police officers, our boys in blue, beating up kids and shooting citizens and things like that. Things that I think if you were intelligent, you knew they were already going on anyway. But now the power of video has normalized it, right? Like, you accept this as this is the norm. Good morning, Terry. You accept it as the norm. And when you accept that type of brutality as the norm, then your mind, it starts doing these things, right? Like, I have friends. I know who you are. I'm not going to call you out. But I have friends. Every time somebody gets beat, it was the cops' fault. I got friends every time someone gets beat, it was that kid's fault or that citizen's fault or what happened prior to the video when they cut the camera on. And I don't want to get into that. I just want you to think about this. Think about, who does this serve to constantly see citizens and law enforcement grappling? Why do we always see mostly dark skin and minorities? And we know it's happening in the white communities because the videos come out. I wonder if anyone did any research into whether or not there are more cameras in certain areas than others. So you make sure that you only see a certain narrative. And think about the hatred that puts in the heart of people constantly seeing these videos. It turns you on law enforcement, right? You ever think that maybe that was the design and that was the plan? That they don't want you blaming the legislators, they don't want you blaming your party, so you will keep voting the way you do. You'll keep screaming, "These lives matter," while those politicians make tons of money and build massive careers on those lives not mattering. So, and I'm gonna end it on here. Like I pushed a little far this morning, but I want you to really think about that and always question your leadership. And I'm not questioning the leadership of any of those groups. I don't know any of them. I'm just saying, process who your real enemy is. Think about who's really making money from all of these lives being taken, and ask, why are there cameras everywhere? And they're showing this, and the psychological impact it's having, not on just us, but even transgenerationally. But now you see blue and black uniforms doing what they do, or you see citizens doing what they do, and you're more apt to now blame them than the way you vote and the legislators you put in office and your two parties who love all of this. All of it. All right, I'm down. That's what I got this morning. That's what I'm thinking about. I don't think that there's as much racism as anybody wants to say. I think people become who they're supposed to become. And those perceptions that look like racism, it's all the media. Turn your TV off. Spend some time with your kids. Get out in your garden. Plant the seed. Why? Because got to be careful what you say sometimes. People who are empowered, they get to make their own decisions. People who are weak, people who can't take care of themselves, everyone else makes their decisions for them. So, when the king knew that trouble was coming down the road, or he suspected trouble might be coming down the road, you know what they did? They planted food. They planted their gardens. They made sure that they were self-sufficient. They built up the storehouses because they knew someone might be storming the castle. The first step in preparing for a long-term future of citizens and people taking their world, their communities, and their government back. Remember, because government's not the enemy. They're just a tool, and they're being controlled by someone, people. It may not be a quick solution, right? I hope that if you ignorant people fighting over dumb things like race can stop, realize who your ally is, pull together, and as a people, we tell our government what they will and will not do any longer, who they will put in cages and who they will not put in cages any longer, where the complete cessation of bombing a world, and hopefully stopping that transgenerational hate that they're bombing, that our kids are and our grandkids are going to have to deal with. As a people, I think we all could stand up and do that. As idiots and morons fighting over tiddlywinks, I don't think we can. So get yourself a garden. Learn how to grow some food. There is a chance that this may not be a quick choice. It may not be a quick decision. This might be a long-term intellectual engagement with our neighbors and getting to explain to them that their fears aren't grounded. That's what I got today. You people have a good day. Keep in mind that we are all family. And anybody who tells you any different, that's the enemy.